welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. I hope you enjoyed the long weekend. I know I did. Did you thank a union? Did you? Or did you just sit back on your tail and go, oh, I have a 3-day weekend? No, thank unions. I mentioned it last week. Thank a union for these holidays and only a 40-hour work week and only working 5 days a week. Because you know, capitalism says, let me try to suck as much labor out of people as I can and pay them as little as possible. Okay, so thank a union. But in the meantime, I wanted to share this story that I found, which is really, really interesting when you consider it was Labor Day weekend. Newsbug Info reports 7.4% of Indiana workers are union members, below U.S. average. Labor unions in the United States have faced major challenges over the last several decades. Anti-union initiatives by employers, the growing prominence of gig economy, and shifting labor laws, among other factors, all contributed to a steady decline in union membership. But recently, interest in unionization has resurfaced. The narrowly averted UPS strike and notable strikes by writers and actors in Hollywood have garnered major interest and made headlines nationwide. Desire for better compensation and working conditions have once again taken center stage. Although union members on average earn more than their non-union worker counterparts, union membership in the U.S. has declined significantly over the past several decades. This downward trend is in part due to more states passing so-called right-to-work laws and changes in composition in the U.S. labor force. In 1979, the union membership rate peaked at over just 24% of U.S. employees. By contrast, only 10.1% of American workers are union members in 2022. The nominal numbers of union membership accounted for roughly 14.3 million workers in 2022, approximately 6.7 million fewer than the peak in 1979. How many times have we talked about wages are stagnant in Indiana? How many times have we said, well, you know, we don't have quality health care. People are working exorbitant amount of hours. Indiana is one of those right to work states. And what that does, it means that you're right to work for less. Now, I know they want to tell you not to pay your union dues. I know they want to tell you that you can keep all your money. You don't need somebody negotiating for you. And they will do anything to bust up a union. But once they do that, wages are suppressed. People lose their sick time, their personal time. They don't have any time off. And we saw what happened to pensions, right? So when we do not collectively bargain and unionize and work together as unions, the rest of America loses. We just saw today that UAW is negotiating with all three manufacturers, Chrysler, Ford, and GM, and they're demanding better wages, a more equitable pay grade, some time off, things like that, and the return of pensions. But these are the things that we need. And listening to the president of the UAW this morning, what did he say? People always want to get upset when union people ask for more money. But nobody ever says anything when the CEO is making bank. Nobody says anything when corporate America is making bank and not paying any taxes. No one says anything when the hedge fund guy, he's not even making anything. He just pulled a formula out of his booty hole and decided that this was going to be a way to make some money. But when workers need something, the people that drive America, the engine that makes this economy work. Again, like I said last week, if you are a business with a plan, but you don't have anyone to execute the plan, then it's just a plan. That's it. You need workers, and workers, yes, we need the opportunity to express ourselves. And some of us actually create those opportunities. But if you are not, everybody's not an entrepreneur, right? Some people are really good labor. Some people are really good with their hands. And there is nothing but honor in that work. And we need to pay folks what they're worth. Becoming a union or joining a union or getting organized is one way to do that. And I just wanted to get that off my chest because, people act like unions are horrible. No, they're not. They're good for the worker, especially if you are a major corporation. So I'm just going to put that out there. Yes, I'm in a union. Ha! I can say it with gusto. All right. This is something else I found rather interesting. A state law that governs how a person becomes a candidate in the partisan primary election will remain in place after the Indiana Supreme Court took a pass on a lawsuit challenging the statute. But the question of whether the law is constitutional remains unanswered. In order for a candidate to affiliate with the Republican or Democratic Party in the Indiana primary, they have to fulfill one of two requirements. They must have voted in the party's primary in the last two primary elections in which they cast a ballot, or they have to get permission from the county party leader where they live. Charles Bookwalter tried to get on the ballot for the 4th Congressional District Republican primary last year, but he didn't meet those requirements. Bookwalter sued. Both a trial court and the Indiana Supreme Appeals agreed that his lawsuit came too late. The election was over. Bookwalter tried to get the Indiana Supreme Court to take the case, but the justices unanimously declined, leaving in place the appeals court ruling. The ruling specifically did not address whether the voting record rule itself is constitutional. Okay, I find this interesting because I know here in Indianapolis, we've had issues with people who wanted to get on the ballot, but they didn't have that rule. And the party chair decided they're not going to get them on the ballot. The rules are the rules. And the reason why I'm sharing this story is A, so that people who are listening know the rules. And B, if you want to run for office, you got to adhere to those rules. So if you haven't voted in the primary and you think you might want to run for office, then you might want to consider the next two primaries, which you only have one before 2005 where there is no election, and then 2006. So the earliest you can run if you've never voted in the primary is 2007. I'm bringing this up because people's feelings get hurt because they don't know the process. This is not, the rules are the rules. You may not like your party chair decision, but it was theirs to make because the rules are the rules. It's a law. And this is for every county, both parties. No exceptions. So if you don't know what your voting record is, go look it up. But honestly, you should be voting in the primary. Everybody should be voting in the primary. You shouldn't be missing an election. Vote. That's the least you can do. Do you know how many people died? How many people died to vote? Do you know how many? Lots. Especially black and brown people in the South and in the Southwest. They died. And honestly, they work so hard to disenfranchise our vote, to take our vote away. That's how important it is. They wouldn't work so hard to take it away from us if it didn't have power. So guys, if you're thinking about running for office and you haven't voted in the primary, get on good graces with your party chair. Do some work, right? But also remember to vote in the primary. All right. And finally, the last story that I'm going to read to you guys tonight. I don't know if you guys are subscribed to the Indiana Capitol Chronicles, but it is one of my favorite publications. A federal lawsuit filed last week claims a new Indiana law unfairly prevents most immigrants from accessing state driver's licenses or identification cards, as well as registering and titling vehicles. The legal challenge was filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Indiana by the American Civil Liberties Union of Indiana and the National Immigration Law Center on behalf of 5 Haitian immigrants who want to obtain an Indiana driver's license or identification card. The contention is a state law passed during the Indiana's 2023 legislative session that creates a pathway for individuals on humanitarian parole to obtain Indiana's driver's license or identification cards, but only if they are from Ukraine. This lawsuit claims that by allowing individuals from only that country to obtain an ID, but not permitting the same opportunity to Haitian refugees, House Enrolled Act 1050 represents national origin discrimination and is unconstitutional. Specifically, the lawsuit claims that the new law violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, as well as Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Our clients are being denied access to state-issued IDs solely because they are Haitian and not Ukrainians, said Gavin Rose, a senior attorney at ACLU of Indiana. Non-Ukrainians on humanitarian parole are left struggling to get to work, to keep medical appointments, to take children to school, and more, all because they cannot drive. Guys, here's another example of how we continually fund the ACLU of Indiana. I think that's like the 7th lawsuit just from the 2023 General Assembly session. All we do is spend tax dollars on lawsuits because of what comes out of that state house. And in this case, I actually understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to help Ukrainians who were in the midst of a crazy war because, I mean, the ultimate white-on-white crime is Putin. Did I say that? Y'all probably don't like that. But yeah, that's white on white crime. What Putin is doing to Ukraine, I just want your stuff. Crimea is mine. It's all mine. I'm taking it. And I'm taking the rest of this mess too. So they're fleeing Ukraine because of war and everything else. And they come to Indiana, and the Indiana Republican supermajority says they can have all the benefits they need, even if they ain't documented. Well, look how long it took DACA folks to be able to get licenses. And now the Haitians, who are also, they've had like 2 earthquakes over there. Like, their land is in rubbles and they're trying to rebuild it. And we're not even gonna talk about all the snakes that went over there and took advantage of the money that they were getting. We're not gonna talk about that. Opportunistic people who want to just steal and rob from folks that are desperate, right? So Haiti is a mess for multiple reasons. They are fleeing. They are refugees, but they can't be on parole. They can't get a driver's license. Would it be because Ukraine is a European nation and Haiti was the first enslaved colony that fought the French, whooped they behind, and earned their freedom? And it's an island full of black folk? I'm just saying, I'm not saying that the policy's racist, but the ACLU is suing. That's all I'm saying. Guys, this is why we have to get involved. We have to be civically engaged in everything. You know, it seemed innocuous on the surface until you realize not everybody is getting the same treatment that the Ukrainians are getting. And I'm not saying that the Ukrainians shouldn't get that. I'm saying they should. But I also believe that everybody else who is here seeking for a better life should be able to do the same thing. And by the way, why wouldn't you want people to have a license, a driver's license on the road they driving anyway, bro? If you think they're not, you bugging. How many people everybody knows somebody who had their license suspended and was driving every day to work. Everybody does. So why not protect the rest of us out here, right? Because if they get a license, that means they can get insurance on the car that they're driving. Now everybody's protected, right? But we don't want black folk. I mean, we don't want the Haitians. I mean, we only want Ukrainians. I mean, again, I want the Ukrainian refugees to have this stuff. I just want us to treat everybody with the same dignity and respect that we treat those who come from European nations. All right. Well, that's my rant. I thought it was a pretty good one tonight. I ain't gonna lie, because there's some good stuff out there, right? There's some good stuff, guys. If you're not reading the Indiana Capitol Chronicle, read that one. That is a really good one. They cover a lot of stuff at the State House. I often pick up stories out of there. They have some great reporters and some great stories. So I love them, and I really do appreciate all that they do in covering the State House the way they do. All right, now y'all know I got a sponsor. It's time for Bohm's Unique Boutique. Today's show is brought to you by Bohm's Unique Boutique. Click on the QR code. And for all Turn Left listeners, you can get a 10% discount on your order by using the code Democrat. Be sure to visit www.bohmsuniqueboutique.com. Y'all know I love Bohm's Unique Boutique. I love Christina Thomas so much. They like my family. I'm trying to tell y'all. But look, it's getting close. Do you need some digital content for your social media or your website? Hit me up, right? Black Pearl Studios, I can create that for you. The prices are, I'm telling you, I'm giving y'all Democratic Party discounts. Trust me. But I will help you because I recognize many of you are not raising $40, $50, $70,000 for your city council races, but you still need the digital content. Right. So holla at me. We could do we'll do basically a headshot with some backgrounds and some music and some slides and stuff like that to make it nice. But now I don't have no drones. We ain't doing unless, action shots, it's going to cost you a little bit more. But I'm telling you, if you want to just come into the studio, do a nice, hi, I'm Dana Black. I'm running for so-and-so and have your message intertwined with some images of you and some sharing some good content. Reach out to me. I got you covered. All right. Black Pearl Studios, hit me up, www.blackpearl-its.com. All right. Now let's talk to our guests. I'm super stoked because I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody from Indianapolis in a long while. I mean, I try to get out to the other 92 counties, but when I get a chance to come home, when I get to talk about this district is like just south of mine. My first guest, y'all, running for the Indianapolis City County Council, District 13, Jesse Brown. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
My pleasure. And my other home out of District 3, y'all know where the best district chair resides, Christine Bohm, and her trusting, amazing, I can't even call him a sidekick because he's kind of too tall for that, Thomas Bohm, and what they do up there. Y'all give it up for Scott Thornsberry, who's running for Huntington City Council District 3. How you doing, Scott? How you doing today? Welcome to the show.
Hello, doing good. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. So, guys, any thoughts on any of the stuff that I was ranting about? I like to kind of ask that to kind of get your juices flowing.
Well, that's
the juices flowing. Yeah, you go ahead first, Scott.
Go ahead, Scott.
What is hitting home in Huntington is the lack of union membership or union options. I've been preaching about it on my personal page. We see it all over. We have a Huntington Neighbors Helping Neighbors site, which was developed during COVID to lend a hand to your neighbor. And all the time, it's just people posting in there, I just don't have enough money to make this bill. I just don't have enough for this. I'm trying to pick up extra hours, but I'm just not getting there. And if you look and see the amount of outcry for help and then compare that to the number of union jobs and high paying jobs within my city, within my county, you see the correlation. We don't have that. And I'm not saying we don't have good employers, but we don't have good paying employers.
Gotcha.
And so it's been a real struggle up here. And unions, man, you gotta support unions.
Absolutely. Jesse, what would anything strike you?
Yeah, am I allowed to say ditto on that? No, unions for sure. That's the number one issue on my website. It's what I've been running on. We need good paying jobs, especially when employers are getting tax breaks from the city or from the state. I'm cool with incentivizing good development and growth. I just want people to earn a living wage when they do it, and unions are how we get that done. I would be remiss if I didn't shout out the new website that just launched around Labor Day, which is HoosierUnion.com. Which is supposed to be like a one-stop shop. If you're not in a union but want to be, you can go there and basically say, here's what I do. I don't even know. Is there a union already? Who should I reach out to? And they'll have somebody from the state AFL-CIO to reach out and point you where you need to go, connect you with an organizer. So super cool resource statewide. Definitely should check it out. And then the other thing that resonated with me was the driver's license issue. I am proud to ride the bus, and I do have a car that I share with my wife. We both have e-bikes too, but it's hard to get around. It's hard to get to work. It's hard to really participate in society if you don't have a driver's license. And I think, yes, we do need to let both Haitians and Ukrainians and anybody else who's here as a refugee get a driver's license. But we also need to step up our public transportation safe bike lanes. We need a lot of different ways to get around. Shouldn't be you lose your license and now you can't work anymore.
I love it. I love it. You guys, hey guys, check this out. Union folks out there who want to get unionized, it sounds like you need to elect these two guys. If you like anything that they're talking about, I have included their ActBlue links. Please donate to these candidates because they're speaking your language. They are speaking your language. All right, let's get into these candidates. Jesse, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
I am Jesse Brown. So I was actually born in New Jersey, Somerville, New Jersey. My parents split up when I was 2, and I came with my mom to Indianapolis, and I've been here 35 years ever since then. I love Indianapolis. It's my home. It always will be. My personal email address is naptownjbrown. So I'm just like East Side till I die. Grew up in Irvington area. I've owned my house for 15 years. So I bought it when I was 22. I snuck in just before the buzzer in 2008 before everything fell apart.
Whew.
So I've been living on the East Side in this district my whole adult life. Went to school at IUPUI. Just love this city. Want to stay here. Want to make it better.
I love it. I love Naptown J. Brown and Indiana's own Dana Black. I mean, that's all. That's all. Ooh, that sounds good. That sounds good. So, bro, what made you want to get it? Now, first of all, congratulations on the primary. You took out a legend. You took out a history maker. Okay, how did you do it? Because everybody loves Zach. Shout out to Zach Adamson. Right. He's my guy. He brought me into Stonewall. I love him to death. I'm just curious, what was your winning formula? Because he was a veteran and had been around a long time. What was your message to the people?
He had, and you know what? He was a personal hero of mine. I was so overjoyed to see him, voted for him every time he was on my ballot. I have just been, like I said, I've been in the same house for 15 years, and I've just seen, I didn't have sidewalks when I moved in. I still don't have sidewalks now. There's been a lot of good development in Indianapolis, and it's not coming fast enough. I had been involved as a precinct committee person before. I'd been a state delegate to the party, but I had never thought about running for office. Honestly, I did so much canvassing and knocking doors. I love talking to people. I love listening and trying to find ways that we meet in common, and just decided I would be 100% transparent, 100% open to hearing what other people's ideas were, and just push, because I think we've got to fight harder. And I think we should not lose track of the fact that it's Republicans in the state house, quite frankly, who are causing all these problems. But we've got to fight back. We got to be able to beat them faster than just waiting for old folks to die off and new folks to come in. Like, that can't be the theory of change. So what really spurred me to action is I have 6 nephews who live within a mile and a half of me. And one of them ended up being diagnosed with lead poisoning because of the pipes in his house. And I looked and I saw life expectancy has actually gone down over 10 years in the last 10 years. So the whole time I've been living in this house, people have been dying younger and younger around me in 46218, which is the poorest zip code in terms of life expectancy in Indianapolis. So I just saw, despite our supermajority, we were on the wrong track in terms of what was happening to me and my closest neighbors. And so I just decided, shot in the arm, some just new energy, started going to neighborhood meetings, started knocking just tons and tons of doors and trying to lead with bold vision. So I'm really honored to have made it this far. Do still have the general election in front of me.
Of course.
No Republican decided to run, so it's just a libertarian. So it's an interesting race.
Okay.
But I want to represent the district, and no matter who you voted for before, I want to be the politician who will pick up the phone, who will listen to you, and find a way forward together.
I think that is fantastic. And I honestly think that the open primary was the best thing ever for Indianapolis. It was a shot in the arm. It encouraged young folks to run for office, which I encourage all of the time. Not everybody won. There were a few folks that, that didn't win, but they got their names out there and they got to work it. One thing I gotta hit on, bro. He was our history maker. He was our first LGBTQ plus elected person in the city. Talk to the gay folks and let us know that you got us.
I 100% have you. I will admit that when I first had my website up, there were a couple of issues that I just thought were so obvious that I hadn't put them up there. And when a trans friend of mine was like, hey, how do you feel about what's happening at the state? I was like, how do I feel? I was at all the ACLU rallies, screaming as loud as anybody. I think what's happening is pure bigotry and horrible. And so I added that to my website. Like, call it what it is. This is bigotry. This is Republicans trying to fight what they think of as the least organized group, but it's clear they're just turning us against each other.
Right.
If we don't stand with our trans brothers and sisters and siblings, then they're going to come for everybody else. And obviously, I will be there with you. I'm standing in the struggle. You can look at my website and meet me in person, talk to me. I want to be arm in arm with you. I do not want anybody to be attacked by our state without me standing right there next to you. So I'm with you. 100%.
I love it. We've got to have good allies, and I appreciate that. All right, Scott, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
All right. I'm Scott Thornsberry, and no relation to the wild thornberries. If you're a 90s baby, you'll understand that reference. I'm from Huntington, Indiana, born and raised here. But I lived in Florida, so not sure if it was much different. Living life up here in the rurals.
Okay.
And doing what we can.
So let me ask you something. They always want to, pit the rural Indiana against urban Indiana. And here I've got the largest city, right? And then one of the smaller towns, rural areas. As a Democrat in rural Indiana, what do you think is a way for us to connect with rural Indiana that we are missing out on?
A lot of my experience, just camaraderie. It's harder for us to find other people that are like-minded, whether that's because of fear of being outspoken about your actual beliefs or a lack of individuals that share your beliefs. And what I've discovered is through networking is just there are so many people across the state of Indiana that feel the exact same way that I do, and building that connection, no matter the distance, has helped me continue my fight because I can see that hope is there, and I can continue to push forward and make some actual change in the rural area.
I love it. And so when you're out canvassing and knocking doors, do you let the folks know you're a Democrat? Because I know some folks be like, nah, I'm not finna tell them I'm a Democrat. I'm too. Are you honest about it, or not honest, or upfront about it?
Oh, I am. I am. Because it's also about flipping the narrative that rural Republicans have painted of Democrats. And they say some outlandish stuff that we do, and none of it's true. And when they realize that you're, a normal human, a neighbor, a real person with the same desires for your local community as them, we just have slightly different ways that we want to go about getting there. They really start to open up, and those walls start breaking down, and we find that common ground and start to progress forward.
See, and I love that, because that speaks to what I often preach about, which is just go talk to your neighbor. If I can drive around Indiana as a cross-dressing African-American lesbian going into rural communities, then you can go talk to your neighbor. And so that's exactly, what we talk about. So I appreciate that. So what has been the most difficult? I mean, I understand they don't read the news or the Constitution. What has been some of the hardest conversations you've had with your neighbors in rural Indiana, and how can we as a party help you with those conversations?
Honestly, the most difficult conversations are honestly about trust and being able to have compassion that we might have differing views, but we can get there together. That trust is broken in the rural areas, and it might be the same way in more urban areas as well. But it's very my side, your side. And if I don't know, you just can't get anywhere until you rebuild that trust. Okay. And
okay. I like that.
And in the rural areas, accurate information is harder to obtain. We tend to live in smaller echo chambers, and so getting the more accurate, correct, and non-threatening, I'll say lightly,
Sure.
way to present factual information is the most beneficial. When we can present real information and not in a non-derogatory or talking down to way,
Yeah.
that's when true education starts to happen. And once again, breaking down them walls.
I love it. I love it. And that's what we got to do, right? One of the things I say when I'm speaking to Democrats is, we got to be like the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts and go into these communities and help them before we start asking for things, meaning asking them for their money or asking them for their vote. All right. Jess, you touched on it a little bit, but talk about what the three main issues that you are focusing on during this campaign cycle.
Yeah, honestly, two big ones I mentioned already. One is unions and good living wage jobs, especially if anybody's getting tax money from us.
Hello.
If we're incentivizing companies to be here, you have to take care of your employees. I think most of us at this point have seen all the studies. Walmart workers end up needing to ask for government help just to stay alive.
Right.
And so we're subsidizing Walmart making extra profits. And that plays out in microcosm across the city as well. So we got to turn that around. Second is infrastructure. When I started knocking doors, I would say, now, obviously, nobody wants to raise taxes. And the end of that sentence was going to be, but we've got to find some way to fix these streets. Indianapolis' streets are really falling apart. It's thanks to the state road funding. I know that.
Yes, the funding fund. So they fix that.
Why, we still got to find some way to make it work. I stopped being able to finish that sentence because too many of my neighbors were like, I will pay more in taxes if that's what it takes. I just need to stop losing axles and tires on my car.
Right.
So things have gotten bad if people are saying they want to raise taxes, right? To a politician, like, that's wild.
And if I can get some of those Donut County commuters to contribute, that'd be great.
Yes, that has definitely got to be a part of it too. But so, I'm not super sold on any particular mechanism, but I just think that we have to find something that works. We'll get creative. I'll dance with a can on the corner if we need to. We just need the money. We got to fix the roads.
I got an idea. It ain't gonna fly, but here's an idea. It can be yours. Naptown J. Brown from Indiana's own Dana Black. See, I think what we should do is put a toll reader on Hamilton, Johnson, Hancock, Hendricks, Boone County license plates, because each of the license plate has a specific number that corresponds with the county that they live in, right? And so when you cross the line to come into work every day, it's like a penny. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. It's a penny. We'll bill you once every month or once every 6 months, and then that way you can then contribute to our roads since you drive on them all the time. If you're someone who just comes to Indy every now and then and you don't live in those donut counties, what's a penny every now and then? You're not gonna, right? But and you can just put them on the license plates. You can put those readers up there, and then every time you come in to work at your 6-figure job, because if you're living in Hamilton County and you're working in Indianapolis, you probably making 6 figures and above, right? You can contribute to those. So you can take that idea and share it.
Yes. We'll see if it gets passed, but I say we shoot for it. Let's go for it. Why not? Because also the other thing is then maybe more people will ride the red line, more people will carpool. I went up to Chicago this last weekend and tolls are so expensive. I was like, I'm riding the Amtrak because it's almost as cheap once you get there. I think it's good to incentivize people to take smarter ways of getting downtown.
I love it. I love it.
But real quick, the third issue that I've been fighting for is transparency because, I've been a precinct committee person. I am still technically. I've been a state party delegate. I think a lot of my neighbors, even the ones who voted Democrat their whole life, don't know all the rules. They don't know how things work. And so even though I'm well aware, we can thank the Republican Party for most of the problems in our state, quite frankly, since they've got supermajority power of the state house. We're not communicating that super well. And so I'm committed to transparency. The whole time I did a bunch of crazy things running for office, mostly because it was a very uphill race against a beloved incumbent, right? Yep. But I always said, this is exactly to the dollar how much money I've raised, right? And where did I get it from? And I made a choice not to take money from any organization, period. So like my top 2 donors, Union Indigo bus driver and a Union IPS school teacher.
I love it.
I try to take money just from people who I care about and are not being listened to right now. And then in return, I'm trying to be as transparent as possible about how's that sausage actually get made, right? How does government work? What can you do to be involved? So voters can trust me. I'm going to stay on that message.
So I have to ask, what made you so union focused as a human, what got you passionate about those that are being exploited?
I got so a couple different things. Number one, I do consider myself a Christian, and to me, the Beatitudes are pretty clear, right? Like we should stand with the people who have the least. That's what God would do. I don't try to push my religious beliefs on other people, but to me, it's a pretty strong part of my morality and ethics I was raised with.
That's a Democrat
but
for
then
you.
in particular, yeah, right. And then in particular, how that came to manifest, I got lucky. When I went to IUPUI, I was paying my own way through school, but then I found a scholarship, and the scholarship was the Sam Mazzaracchia Scholarship, which was an old steelworker organizer, donated a bunch of money when he died to help students learn organizing skills. So it was labor, community, senior citizen organizing. Even while I was in that scholarship program, I had a work-study job at a school that was a charter school. And I was like, well, they were nice people. All the teachers were cool. It's okay. Maybe it's good to have some school choice. While I was working there, they made a unilateral decision to add 38 days of work to the year, which was 18% more work, which they gave us an 8% raise for, which if you do the math, that's called a pay cut.
Right.
And so I got to see firsthand what happens if you don't have a strong teachers union who could say, hold on a second, let's negotiate, let's bargain together, not just receive these commandments from on high. So it burned me out of what was my dream job before that. And so I got this really kind of painful, but very, very impactful firsthand lesson about how important unions are.
That's an incredible story. That is it's an incredible story because, having lived it, you can empathize so much better with your constituents who are struggling. Scott, what are the 3 issues that you are, focusing on during this campaign season?
Yeah, so we talk a lot about the differences between rural and urban areas, but when it breaks down to it, we have the same exact issues. So what I'm focusing on is, once again, those union jobs. We don't have enough good paying jobs in my community to be able to support people. And just to jump in on the question you had asked Tim, I'm so pro-union because that's how I was raised.
I love it.
I remember being a little tyke. Grandpa, my papaw, I don't say grandpa, my papaw, working for GE and a union leader, and we were on strike, and we were out there with our picket signs, and I was little, so they like maybe kindergarten age,
right.
And they had me out there striking with them and fighting for worker rights, and I've been doing that ever since. So that's the first issue is union jobs more in my community. We have a lot of development going on, but it's all sub-paying jobs.
Right.
Not necessarily bad employers. Once again, I don't want to diss any good employers that aren't up to snuff with the pay, but like union jobs, they're just better.
Yeah. Well, because if I don't have to pay you more, I won't pay you more.
Yeah. And so that's a big one because the need is astronomical in my community for those jobs. And then the other top issue, once again, in my small town is infrastructure. Jesse kept talking about sidewalks. In my community, if I want my sidewalk, I have to pay half of it.
What?
And
I thought you were, wait. You're already paying taxes. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no. In my community, if you want a sidewalk, if you want your sidewalk fixed because it's no longer navigable, the homeowner has to pay at least half of it, and then the city will reimburse you half. So you have to pay for it, and then they'll reimburse you half.
Whoa!
And all over town, all over town is broken sidewalks that are not ADA compliant, that are completely inaccessible. Some are just grass patches because nobody could put in a sidewalk, and and the city is not listening. At least city council is not listening. They don't care because they'd rather give themselves a raise instead of invest into our city. And so infrastructure is a huge one. In addition to that,
Wow.
all the road projects we have going on, which are great, but they don't seem to act, our city doesn't seem to actually coordinate the jobs. So we just have a road repaved, redone, it's looking great. And then a utility company comes in and says, oh, wait, we have a project we have to do on this road. They tear it up again. And then, and it's
Wow.
wash, rinse, repeat. We don't
Wow.
have any coordination. And it's like, how do you ignore that? How do you get money for infrastructure, invest in it, and then not know that some of your utility providers in the area are needing to update their systems and are going to be tearing that road right back up? Well, and that happens all the time. And it's a pressure point for a lot of people. And then my third point, this is more of a hyper local issue.
I love it.
Is my district represents the south side of Huntington, and as is historically accurate for a lot of cities, the south side always seems to be forgotten.
Yep.
And we aren't investing in development on the south side. We aren't investing in, once again, infrastructure on the south side. Any new projects are happening on the north side or downtown, which those areas do need it, but south side needs some love too. And no new initiatives or projects are happening on the south side, and we're losing businesses on the south side. The businesses that are there are struggling to stay open, and they are small businesses. They are families in our community struggling to raise their families, and they're fighting for all they can, and the city is not investing in that side of town. There's no grocery store on our side of town. You've got to drive 10 minutes to the other side where there's 3 grocery stores all within the same block.
Well, wait a minute. I'm gonna let you keep going, but I want to say something about that, because you're talking about you live in a food desert, and it sounds to me, because when we talk about it here in Indianapolis, people want to make it seem like, oh, black folks is just complaining. But Huntington doesn't have a huge minority population, does it?
No, we don't. No.
So is there like an income divide on the south side?
Yes.
Interesting how that works. Interesting. Go ahead, sir. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no, you're fine. That's exactly it. The south side and the east side, which are the two areas that I cover, those are the higher rental populations, homeowners, or landlords, I should say. I'm also the highest concentration of landlords who don't take care of their properties.
We call those slumlords. Yes.
Yes. And so we are the district that is most heavily impacted on lack of investment. And also another thing that I am kind of a theme of my campaign is freedom. The city has more control over our properties than our property owners do. And that goes as far as, if we look at all of the fines and the fees and the rules and the laws that my city has instituted, who are they most affecting? And it's people of lower means. And I mean, another plug to Bones Unique, but I have my Apple Watch Freedom right there.
Love
it. And it's true. We can't institute all of these barriers. Essentially, we keep knocking people down and then ask, well, why are you staying down there? Well, it's because you keep knocking me down there. Like, how do you get out? And the city needs to open its eyes, get some representatives in there who are actually willing to do the work and not just toe party line, and support people. That's what I do all the time, is support people. And that is why I am running for office. And that is why it is so important to get candidates that are about people first in office.
I love it. I love it. Indiana's own Dana Black, turn left. We are talking today to Jesse Brown, who is a candidate for Indianapolis City County Council District 13, and Scott Thornsberry, candidate in Huntington County City Council District 3. Guys, I'm getting fired up. Click on the donate links. Click on the donate links. Give these guys $5 of your money. That's all it takes. Sometimes it goes a long way. Help these candidates out. All right. We've talked a lot about, what you got, why you guys are running for office, the issues that matter to you. But the City County Council is the fiscal body also. The other side will always tell you that Democrats, we don't do nothing but tax and spend, which is not true. We know that this is not true. We know how to balance our books too, right? Talk about how you're going to work in making sure that we stay in Indianapolis, we stay fiscally sound, and how you can, and then in Huntington, how you can work across the aisle to address those needs. And Scott, I'm gonna let you go first because you were just talking about what was happening. I'm also curious, does the person that holds the seat right now that you're running against, they obviously live in the district. Are they a homeowner or a renter? Do you know?
They are a homeowner, and they live in the nicer section of our district. Of course they do. Right by our main park area.
Of course they do. So tell me how you're going to work across the aisle and also show them that as a Democrat, you are definitely fiscally responsible.
Yeah. So Huntington has a long history of fiscal irresponsibility.
Are there any Democrats on that city council?
None at all.
Oh, imagine that.
And we've had a long history of this. And I mean, to the point where we're so fiscally and observationally obtuse in our government that Huntington County and the city of Huntington could no longer afford to operate a landfill, could no longer manage guidelines to operate that landfill, and now we're paying so much more to ship it out of county.
Wow.
And that is a big pressure point for people as well. And that goes back to responsibility, not necessarily just fiscal responsibility, but responsibility and oversight, and the lack that is in our currently elected officials. And I say that lightly because my opponent was not elected and he was appointed.
So did they do one of those, I'm gonna retire before my term is up, and then the person can, the leader can appoint the next person? Is that how they did that?
Well, the previous gentleman that was in the seat, he was a reasonable person. I had many conversations with him. He was willing to hear my side, and he was willing to have those tough conversations and work with me. Unfortunately, he had a house fire.
Oh, and he had to move.
So, but the replacement that they chose was somebody who was, fitting their newest GOP narrative. And it's just not. It's not great.
So it sounds like that you don't have an issue reaching across the aisle to work with folks. Is that kind of your leadership style? Is that kind of your communication style?
Yeah. I can appreciate that we all have different beliefs and different backgrounds. And if we actually have those open conversations, regardless of our political affiliations or our beliefs, we sort of common ground to actually progress forward. And in Huntington, we are paying astronomical taxes and fees and all this stuff just to have nothing in return. Why are we paying so much compared to our neighbor counties and cities when we can't have sidewalks and we don't have investment in certain neighborhoods? And those things are common problems that people from both sides can come together on and fight because it's not right.
I love it. Okay, Jesse, we're this Indianapolis City County Council, other than Bloomington. I think Bloomington has like all 9 Democrats, but I'm not going to go there about that because I think that's not a good thing.
Right.
Because they sit around and argue with themselves for 6 hours. It's crazy. If you ever seen a Bloomington City County Council meeting. But anyway, I digress. We have a supermajority. We have a supermajority here in Indianapolis. And on the South Side, it's all Republicans, then everything on the north side of Indianapolis are majority Democrats. How are you going to keep that balanced budget and figure out ways to solve some of our problems and stay fiscally sound?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question. And I will say this and make sure nobody hears that Scott is this way. I am saying that I actually am a socialist, right? So I believe in public spending to help make people's lives better. That said, I think that sometimes when we look at fiscal conservatism and balancing budgets, we make a little bit of unfair comparisons, right?
Okay.
And so, for example, Indianapolis has a balanced budget, and I think that's a good thing. But when we say our budget's balanced and our streets are not actually funded appropriately, I know I keep going back to this, but it's a personal pain point that a lot of my people in my district share.
That's why, look, people think wait a minute, people think I drive a pickup truck because I'm just trying to be cool. No, I have to go off-roading every day. You know what I'm saying?
Real, right?
Real talk. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm with you. But yeah, so my wife and I share the one car. We've replaced 7 tires and 3 rims over the last 8 years. So yes, that wasn't coming out of my tax dollars, but it's coming out of my paycheck anyway.
Yeah.
It's coming out of my wallet when at the end of the day, we could have just better fixed these roads.
Yeah.
I worry that sometimes we're nickel and diming ourselves and we're refusing to pay the cost up front because of sticker shock. But then if we actually looked at our budgets afterwards, we're asking people to pay a lot more in the long run. But I don't think that we should ever have the government taking your money, spending it, and you don't know what it's for. And that's what I heard from neighbors all the time. Yes, they're upset about property taxes, but not because they think it's too much to be paying. They see what it's like in other states. They know we've got a constitutional cap and it's pretty low comparatively here. They just don't like paying money and not knowing what it's for.
Gotcha.
And so I think that goes back to transparency and make the case, right? If we want to fund something and we think, we look at, I know this is a national example more than the city, but look at early childhood education. Every study shows we make back way more money in the long run if we invest in that. And so to me, it's wild not to just make that initial investment and then reap those benefits for decades to come. But I don't think government should be just making these decisions by themselves. I think we need to go back to the people, make the case, sell it to them, and ask them, what do you think? We're a state and a city that doesn't have really easy access to ballot initiatives, which I think is a huge shame. But I still think we can start doing a better job of asking constituents, hey, how would you feel about this? What if we raised money in X way for Y thing? And you know how we're going to prove it is at the end of the year, I'm going to write you a report, and send it out to my whole email list to let you know how the money was spent. And then do you decide to reinvest or not, right? Treat people like shareholders, treat people like their money matters and they have to care how we spend it.
You just said something that just, how many times have we heard people say government should be ran like a business? And you're saying, okay, maybe we can run it like a business, but the constituents are the shareholders. Bro,
that's right.
I am here for that. That's a marketing tool. I love it. You want to run it like a business? Keep it like shareholders. Now, guys, the other thing that there's a couple other issues I want to hit to before we go. How do y'all feel about TIF districts? Dun, 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 dun. Scott? Yeah, deep breath. Did he put it on mute? Uh-oh. Jess, go ahead. I'll come back to you, Scott.
I'll jump in. Yeah, I kind of cut my teeth in politics hating TIF districts and thinking they were always the devil, right? And they could never do anything good. And lately I've seen some examples that make me kind of reconsider, right? So I think there's affordable housing TIFs, right? Where we keep local money in the community and we reinvest it in things like making sure everybody has a place to stay so we don't get gentrified and just displaced. That's pretty cool. I don't mind that at all. So I think it's one vehicle. And the one important thing in Indianapolis is it's a vehicle that the state will let us use, right? And so there's a lot of really cool ideas that the state has gone out of its way to say, no, you're not allowed to do that. I'm sure anybody who is watching and listening to Dana Black already knows this, but earlier this year, Republicans in the state house did 2 different things to try to stop Indianapolis from having self-rule. And that was try to stop us from banning puppy mills and try to stop us from being able to ban right on red. So they mess with us just to be petty all the time. And
consolidated city.
So since TIF districts work and we know the Republicans will let us use them, I'm not going to take them off the table. I have concerns about accountability and transparency, but I think we can meet those and still use that vehicle.
All right, Scott, what's your thoughts on TIFs?
Yeah, sorry,
That's all right.
When I'm mute. So I'm gonna agree with everything that he was saying, but with the way that my city has been using TIF districts, yes, they work, but my district is a poorer, I want to say a community that has less resources.
Okay.
And with redevelopment investment, you have to do it correctly. And sure, they're going in, the city's obtaining some properties, they're implementing TIF and removing blight, but they're just leaving empty lots that just sit. There's no actual the redevelopment part of that. And so pros and cons, obviously. The con just being the way my current community is handling how they're investing in redevelopment projects.
Okay. All right. And the last issue, and Jess, you kind of touched on it a little bit. Every candidate that I've talked to this year, mind you, they're either running for mayor, they're running for city council or town council. Every person has talked about the lack of affordable housing, not subsidized housing. It's very different than affordable housing. Scott, I'm gonna start with you. How would you like to see your city council address the affordable housing crisis that we have in our state?
Yeah, so Huntington has one thing I will say our mayor is really passionate about, and he is an independent mayor.
Okay.
So he is not affiliated with a party. One thing he's really passionate about is realizing that Huntington does not have housing. We don't have enough, and we definitely don't have affordable housing. And so he is actively trying to find new projects and investors to create projects like that. We have some things in the pipeline, but what we keep running into is market rate, and not affordable. And that's the biggest difference we're hitting. He puts together an idea, and then his support system runs with it in a completely different direction. And we end up with these rental communities or apartment complexes that are market rate, which is volatile to the income levels that we're earning in my county and my city. And so we're just lacking it. And then areas where there are affordable houses, in my areas, where we're dilapidated, we're run down, and they require a lot of investment back in. But we have so many of the people that can only afford to buy in those areas have barriers to be able to get then those loans to fix up. And then we're strapping people with more loans and more debt. And so it is a problem. And for Huntington, we just need to shift the focus and stop letting the big investors that want to make big bucks come in and stick to our guns and actually create the affordable housing and stand behind that.
I love it. Jess?
Yeah, another really good question. I'm just buttering you up like crazy as the host, aren't I?
Hey, I like being buttered up. Keep going.
Hey, it's
butter
all right.
me like
I'm
a turkey,
right?
baby.
I'm supposed to be smoozy. Yeah. But no, what I will always bring for my constituents in my district is bold visions. And I want to be clear that I am not some crazy person who believes that we can snap our fingers and get there, right? So I'm really intrigued by, if you look at Vienna, for example, they have a really good system of public housing and social housing, they call it, where even if you are, say, a university professor or somebody making pretty decent money, that's still attractive housing to live in. You don't have like the Cabrini Green issue where you just don't provide enough maintenance costs and it just becomes a slum. I think we could have like big, bold housing vision, and we should move in that direction. Now, there are 25 people on the Indianapolis City Council. I don't think there are 2 people who agree with me on that. And so I'm not promising my district that we'll get that this year. right? But I do think that a lot of things Scott said are true in Indianapolis as well. We lack housing. Metro Indianapolis had a 30% rent increase year over year, which was like top 5 in the country. We evicted the second most raw numbers of people in the entire country, right after New York City, but way above LA, for example.
Wow.
Raw numbers, not even per capita. So it is out of control. We have to do something. And I think we do have broad consensus, even among Republicans, that something's got to give. So I do think there's something we could do. What I've been worried about in terms of some of our existing solutions has been we'll create some percentage in a new building will be affordable, but they'll define affordable as 80% of poverty rate, which means like anybody who is working at, a service industry job can't afford to live there, even though it's quote unquote affordable instead of market rate. And so we have to look at what are you supposed to do if you're just getting on your feet? What if you are a woman who's just left a domestic violence situation and are just entering the workforce for the first time? What if you've got kids and you're still trying to put yourself through school while you work? I don't think we have good housing options for anybody in those situations. And then at the other side of the spectrum, right? Elders, property taxes. Again, I mentioned people are pretty okay with the values, but when you're on a fixed income and your taxes go up a huge percent year over year, your money didn't go up.
Right.
So that's coming out of your food. That's coming out of
medication
presents for your grandkids. It's not pretty. And I think we need to look at the possibility of maybe freezing property tax rates or giving some sort of discounts for senior citizens who can't afford and shouldn't be kicked out of the neighborhood they've lived their whole lives.
I agree, because that's one of the things that gentrification has done is, they wait until the area is so depressed, right? And then they swoop in, and these predatory purchase people, like I can't even tell you how many people have offered to buy my home. I'm up to 3 million now. I figure since this ain't on the market and you got unsolicited calls to me about my property, I can charge what I want to charge because I didn't ask you to buy it. You asking me, so I figure I can charge whatever I want. They usually go away.
Right, do the Dr. Evil, $1 million.
No,
right?
I'm at 3 because I figure it's a high demand. It's a high demand for my condo. So if you really want it, pay me. Be better have my money. I can't say that. Guys, this has been an amazing hour. First of all, let me say this. One thing is for certain about the two of you. You are very knowledgeable about what is going on in your cities. You didn't just come on here to talk about how great you are as an individual. You had facts and figures about what is happening in your city and the districts that you live in. I think that is the most important thing that any candidate can possibly have as they talk about why they're running for office, what's going on in the community and how you want to address it. And I love also that you said, I don't know if I have all the answers. I don't have all the solutions, but I see this is a problem. And now we need to put our heads together and start talking about it. I've had some great candidates, but this conversation was so elevated because both of you guys are truly understand what is going on in your community. And I really appreciate the homework that you guys have done and being prepared to talk about your communities. So I want to give you a hand for that because this was a good conversation. All right. Scott, tell the people where they can find you.
So you can find me. I'm obviously in Huntington, but you can find me Facebook, TikTok, Scott for Huntington, both of those things. You can find me every third Tuesday at the Huntington County Democrat headquarters for our Huntington County Young Dems meeting with the president of, which I completely forgot, but I just got sworn in today. You are now looking at the newest 3rd Congressional District Chair for IYD.
Congratulations. Love it. You know, I love IYD. They my favorite group.
Yes. And so you'll be seeing me several events all around the district now as well.
Okay,
so
love it.
You can find me.
I love it. And then do you have any events coming up?
Specific events, I do not. Canvassing is more on the fly because, got to work that full-time hours.
Understand.
Mostly just the monthly meetings for the party, monthly meetings for Young Dems, And then when you catch me walking around downtown, feel free to join me.
I love it. I love the honesty, right? Because,
Yes.
you should have seen me. Real talk, when I was running in 2016, I would run from downtown all the way up to McCordsville so I can knock on doors and try to get as many as you can before it gets dark. Because, a black chick in Hancock County after dark was not a safe. Anyway, all right, Jess, tell the people where they can find you.
Absolutely. Of course, they can hit me up. I spend too much time on Twitter. Maybe don't follow me there.
I'm definitely going to follow you. I'm about to do it right now.
But you can hit up my website, www.jesseforind.com. That's JESSEFORINDY.com. My email address is there. It's just jesse@jesseforind.com. Cell phone 317-370-7079. I give it out to everybody. It's my real cell phone number. People tell me I'm crazy and I still do it. You will see me riding my bike all around the neighborhood. It's, by the way, cheat code for politicians. Just ride a bike because you have time to actually make eye contact and wave to your constituents, and greeted like 5 people this morning when I went out for coffee.
Love it.
And being at neighborhood meetings, continuing to knock doors. You'll see me knocking doors on the south side for my friend Ryan Huey, who is trying to break some of that Republican control on the south side of Indianapolis.
Right.
Shout out to him, give some money, look him up. And then at DSA meetings. So I'm a member of Democratic Socialists of America. We are not an independent party. I am a Democrat. But it's a good way for people on the left side of that party who want progressive change to join. It's a membership dues only. We don't take money from outside people just like me. So would love to see you there.
Thank you for explaining to people, because some people be hearing, socialists, they think, Stalin, and that's that's not it, right? You're a Bernie bro. You are Elizabeth Warren, and a little boy left of AOC, right? I get
exactly,
it.
right.
I get it. Because to my heart, to my core, a lot of the things that you stand for as a democratic socialist, I align with. I just also know how to count.
Yeah, right. It's a two-party system for sure. Right?
I know how to count.
So which one is reasonable and which is not.
I love that you, but I love that you own it. And one other thing I got to tell you, y'all know I work for Act Blue. Bernie Sanders is the reason why Act Blue blew up like it did, because he tapped into those small dollar donors. He was the one that blew it up in 2016. It wasn't Barack Obama. It was Bernie Sanders and his democratic socialist ideas and reaching out to people, and those small dollar donors just made Act Blue just take off, right? So I just wish he had stayed a Democrat. That's my only problem. I just wish he had stayed a Democrat. He ran in the Democratic primary, and then after he won the primary, he went back to being an independent. Just a little bugaboo for me. Thank you guys so much for joining us. You guys were fantastic. Okay, guys. Don't go anywhere. So some things are happening, right? And y'all know I love helping people get elected, but I also have this amazing job now. So I need y'all's input. A lot of times they ship me out to go to conferences, and those conferences are usually Wednesday through Sunday. Talk to me. Do you want me to continue to do the live streams and maybe do it on a Monday or a Tuesday? And we wouldn't make any changes until after the election, right? Or do you just want the recorded version and see it on YouTube, hit it on Spotify? I like the live because it gives the candidates an opportunity to do live interviews. So I'm leaning that way, but I just kind of want to get your ideas on that. So let me know what you guys think on that. And then finally, I got to make my push, my plug, my one last plug this Saturday. If you haven't already done so, the Trinity Haven fundraiser homecoming with the Broadway theme. Hello, Broadway theme, Trinity Haven. Do you know what Trinity Haven is? Trinity Haven is the only residence in the state of Indiana that is for LGBTQ plus youth who are at risk of homelessness. Okay, so we have 2 programs. We have a house that houses 9 people for 2 years, and then we have a second program. It's called a host homes program, where a person in the community has a room that they're willing to open up after some training to a young person who needs short-term stay and what we do is we try to help these young people prepare for independent living. I don't get how a parent can throw their kid away because they're gay or whatever the issue is, but we're the only place that says young people between the ages of 16 and 22 can come and stay in our residence for 2 years. Get yourselves ready. because at least help you get your GED or equivalency or whatever they're calling it this year, and get them ready for life to be independent. However, that takes money. So if you haven't already, I will make sure that I share the link on my Facebook pages and or all of my social media pages. If you haven't, because we're getting close to being sold out. So get your tickets now. And no, they are not cheap. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that they're cheap. They are not. These are not $25 tickets, okay? Because we got bills to pay. We got cable bills and cars and insurances and liabilities and all the things, right? So if you haven't already, and then if you can't make it to the fundraiser, could you just donate to Trinity Haven? Could you just donate $25? See, that's the $25. Anything. We will take it because, again, we're helping young people. All right, I got another show coming up next week with some great candidates. I love talking to Democrats. We are post Labor Day, so that means, oh boy, it's heating up out here in these streets, baby. All of these candidates are ready to earn your vote. So tune in to Turn Left so you can find out who these candidates are, where they're running, and how you can help. All right, Indiana's own Dana Black, Turn Left. I will holler at you next time. Peace. Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions. Executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by www.bensound.com.